What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. We've got a three-man booth tonight, and that means we've got a special guest talking Masters golf here this week, so should be a fun show tonight. Always fun for Masters week, and we'll break that down here for you over the next 45 minutes or so. I am Justin Van Zuiden, your usual host, STL Cardinals 84, the daily fantasy handle. Of course, got my usual co-host Derek Farnsworth alongside, but want to introduce our special guest tonight. Ryan Noonan is alongside. He's joined us a couple times before from Betsperts Golf. Ryan, how you been? And happy Masters Week.
Happy Masters Week to you both. Excited to be back here. Enjoyed our time with you gentlemen. Just, again, two OGs in the space. I spent so much time in the betting space. I spent some time this afternoon to make sure I could be ready to talk DFS with two of the best to do it. So excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you back. And, of course, Mr. Derek Farnsworth, a.k.a. Notorious. Brian Harmon won last week. Noto that can only mean that things are just looking up. So how you doing?
Yeah, Brian Harmon, model favorite over the years. Wasn't last week, but that's okay. We also said Keith Mitchell would be winning at some point and then not finish nearly as high. So we got that right as well. But, happy to be talking some Masters, best week of the year. And, Ryan, hate to put you on the spot, but what's your favorite Masters bet?
Favorite Masters bet? I love Cam Smith, top 20, like plus 190 right now. Just guy rolls out of bed and performs well here. Doesn't really matter what form comes in. So I love getting almost 2-1 on Cam Smith to top 20 is not even that hard. You shoot 3 over par and finish top 20 here. So
love it.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to beat 20 nobodies and half the field makes the cut. And I mean, Scotty Scheffler to make the cut, I think, is a pretty risky bet you could maybe throw out there this week. But no, it should be a lot of fun. As always, I believe we've got 95 in the field this week. Always a little bit of different qualifying criteria for the Masters. You got some past champions in there as well, teeing it up. So it's not a 150-plus golfer field if you're used to the normal PGA Tour events. 95 in the field this week, and again, 15 or so of those, you got some amateurs and some past champions that really aren't going to threaten. So really, if you think about it, maybe 80 competitive golfers, and the cut line is top 50 in ties. So that's over 60% of the competitive golfers are probably going to make it to the weekend. So you'll have, in general, a higher 6 of 6 through the cut percentage for the Masters than you will for most other tournaments, barring, crazy chalk missing the cut or something like that. Does tend to be a little bit different here. So you do want to try to make sure, you're always trying to make sure you get as many guys through the cut as possible, but the percentages should be a little bit higher this week. So don't want to spend too much time going back on last week. It was a weird event. The course played really hard on Sunday at the Valero Texas Open. Brian Harmon, the winner, as I mentioned, at 9 under, but the leaderboard, was kind of full of a lot of value guys. And basically, if you didn't implode on Sunday, you moved way up the leaderboard. But Noto, any takeaways from last week for you?
Not really. Brian Harmon's just one of those guys that when he wins, he kind of runs away from the field. We saw that at the Open a couple years ago. I don't know.
He shot 3 over on Sunday and still won by 3.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else kind of imploded too around him, so he didn't really have a ton of heat on him. But yeah, I mean, I was on Maverick McNeely. Other than that, I didn't really have a ton of guys in the top 10. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the best event for me. I was kind of hoping for 6 of 6 like halfway through Friday, and then 3 of my guys just fell apart on their back nines and ended up missing the cut. So I didn't pay too much attention over the weekend. It was just kind of gearing up for the Masters. Luckily got to start my Masters research a little early.
Yeah, the salaries have been out a while too, so always good to start that Masters prep. Ryan, anything else you want to pass along before we just start digging into Augusta National here?
Yeah, Valero just this poor spot in the schedule. It's like the worst. It's the forgotten tournament. As soon as it ends, everyone's just so excited to turn the page to Augusta. So, yeah, even before. I mean, I didn't watch much. I had spent all the time last week writing my player's guide and knew that I was going to partially neglect my family for this week. So I needed to really dig in this weekend, spend some time with the wife and my boys, and make sure that I'm feeling okay about really just planting myself here and watching all the monitors this week.
And early weather forecast for Augusta looks relatively mild, modest, nothing super crazy. So it doesn't seem like at this hour that we're looking at any major weather impacts, which is good. Always nice to be able to play as scheduled. And the course obviously speaks for itself. Tons of history, very predictive in terms of course history being relevant here. So Noto, as usual, why don't we start with a little look at the course?
You mentioned course history being important. If you look at the Data Golf course history predictive tool, it's like almost twice as much as any other. So guys that have played well here in the past tend to play well here again. So I would definitely take a close look at course history. Obviously, you have the first timer narrative that nobody's won here on their first try since 1979. I'm okay targeting first timers in general. You probably don't want to bet them to win, but I think that narrative is a little bit overblown when it comes to DFS, especially with the value plays. We'll talk about some of them a little bit later. But yeah, the course, 7,500 yards, par 72. You got to take advantage of the par fives. They mow the grass, against the grain so that it limits the rollout of your drives. So some people say it's like 78, 7,900 yards is what it plays closer to than the 7,500 on the scorecard. So it's definitely an edge for those that can get it out a little bit off the tee. So I'm bumping up driving distance. The fairway is obviously really wide here. Not a lot of rough to speak of, none actually. They each have a second cut, and then they have the pine straw. And then you're going to get a lot of uneven lies. There's basically very few flat lies on the property. And then the greens, they're pretty big in size, but they play a lot smaller because of the undulations, all the runoffs on the greens. So got to be good with your irons, especially your long irons. And then, you got to scramble well here. But for me, it's tough for me to look at like strokes gained around the green at the Valero or something else like that has thick rough when you're really just scrambling from tight lies, and you have to be, creative and use all the undulations of the greens to kind of help get the ball close to the hole. So I'm not looking too much at raw strokes gained around the green this week. Not looking too much at putting because we have seen so many bad putters play well here over the years. And again, these greens are just so unique that, strokes gained putting at any other event probably doesn't matter as much at the Masters. Mentioned the course history angle, par 5 scoring. You got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And that should just about do it for me.
Yeah, obviously the keys here, most years are the same, and the Bombers tend to have an edge for those reasons that you mentioned, unique characteristics of the grass and, not having the long rough and having the pine straw, just different dynamic at Augusta. But, you'd think when hearing you say that, oh, no thick rough and Bombers paradise. And, how can the course play so difficult? But it's just part of what makes the Masters so special. So Ryan, what are you looking at as far as stats to target this week, nature of the course, general thoughts before we dig in?
Yeah, part of why it is what it is it's just a true test of the entire bag, right? You have to have it all for that week. You can come in like, Derek said, you don't have to be a great putter, but you need to roll it that week. I think course history for a handful of reasons matters here. Obviously, just the gravitas of the event, but because it is such a unique place to kind of navigate, and the on and around the green stuff really matters here. Like Derek said, you can have these places if you're just looking at raw strokes gained around the green. You get these places with thick, rough aprons around the green. It's not really telling you anything you need to know this week. Everything is shaved runoffs. You also have just these elevated greens. The elevation changes too, so distance is going to matter. Going for the green percentage, you want to have some guys, especially that are at least willing to get themselves into on those par fives. Because again, really long set of par fours, really difficult set of par threes. You need to really kind of hold on there and make up some scoring opportunities on those par fives. So I just want to see some guys that have the, just a little bit of aggressiveness historically on going for greens that can play itself out through distance as well. But through the rabbit hole, you can go ahead and look at going for the green percentage in different contexts as well. So yeah, I want to see that you've done it here before, or that you've done it in a major championship in the last handful of years, really. I think it's a great way to kind of narrow down your player pool. You can get into some, debutantes and stuff like that, but I think you can build pretty good core with guys that have at least walked the grounds here and been competitive at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable the number of guys you see that, struggle a couple times and then their history just kind of gradually improves. And, I do kind of agree with Noto that maybe the narrative is a little bit overblown when it comes to taking guys that are, say, 7K or 6,500 on DraftKings. you're not necessarily looking for that last guy on your roster to be the guy that wins the tournament, but it's just it's tough for first timers a lot of times to find a lot of success here, and we can talk about some of those first timers as we go through. But enough of the shenanigans here. Let's go ahead and dive in. As usual, as we've seen for much of the last 12 months when they've both been in the field together, Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler have been the two most expensive golfers. It's been McIlroy that has had the better results in recent months. But of course, Scheffler 2 wins here over the last 3 years, and impeccable course history, 5 straight top 20s. He's gained over 50 strokes on the field. He's your most expensive guy at 12-4 on DraftKings. Rory McIlroy at 11-1, and then we've got Ludwig Aberg, Colin Morikawa, and Jon Rahm also over 10K. Ryan, I'll throw this top group to you. A, do you feel like you have to start with Rory or Scottie? And B, if so, who do you like the most? Or if not, who are you pivoting to?
I believe you didn't have to have Scottie to win last year, which I think is unique. I think the winner did have Scottie in some bigger field stuff, but I don't think you had to have him to win, which is kind of a unique way that played out, especially since he won by margin. I think that you can start comfortably below that. I don't think you have to have them. Cash games, I think you probably want to have at least one of them. I think you just probably start with Scottie, feel pretty good about it. In large field tournaments, I think you're very much okay starting with a guy like Jon Rahm, who I am on this week. I think it's a great spot for Rahm. Obviously not lighting up Live, which I think a lot of us probably expected. He's won a couple times in the 25 or so events that he started there, but he's always competitive. It's really hard to put that on a proper scale because we're looking at 54 holes, 54-man field. Back end of those fields are pretty terrible. Some of the courses they play are pretty rough, but I think he is a very competitive guy that is probably a little bit frustrated that he comes in here and it's the Rory and Scottie show, right? It's like, Scottie looking to go back-to-back, 3 out of 4, Rory playing his best golf. Rahm doesn't get to be in any of those fields. And I think he definitely feels like he belongs in that conversation. It's kind of played himself out. If anything, it's like Xander's the next guy there, right after having 2 majors last year. So we've seen enough. I thought he played pretty well at Doral. It was really nice of him to throw a quad in the 17th hole on Sunday to kind of throw everyone off of his scent. He, fell down the leaderboard there, being pretty aggressive. So I think you can get away with Rahm, go ahead and be a building block to start with. I think that he is probably a little bit more popular than I was expecting this week, but I think he's a great way to start there too. But again, cash games, just building Scheffler, there's enough 6K, 6,500 guys that you can build and feel pretty good about.
Yeah, the Rahm angle with his play on Live is interesting because it's tough to gauge, the motivation angle, right? I mean, he's obviously been pretty outspoken, maybe not necessarily in recent months, but if you go back longer in terms of some critiques of, and hey, he's the one that made the choice, so he's got to live with it. But certainly he's a guy that lives for competing in these types of, no pun intended, lives for competing in these types of majors and, these big championships. So will be interesting to see how he performs here this year. Noto, your take on that top group?
Yeah, Rahm's not my favorite, but I do think he's very interesting. We talk about his form on Live, but I mean, he's had 10 straight top 10s on Live and 2 wins during that stretch. So it's not like he's been playing bad, just maybe not as many wins as we might expect in those smaller fields. And during that stretch, he did have 3 top 10s on the DP World Tour too. So those were some bigger fields. So yeah, I like the Rahm angle. I watch a lot of YouTube golf, and he's on a lot of people's channels, and he's angry, man. He seems more motivated than ever to get back into the spotlight. So I do like that angle. He's probably my second favorite option above 10K. Look, every year people are going to talk themselves into Rory. I'm usually not one of those guys. I'm usually not the one that's saying it's time for Rory to get the Grand Slam, time for him to get the green jacket. But I am this year. Just feels a little bit different. I don't know. Picked up big wins at Pebble, at the Players. If you look at his stats, he's got no weaknesses coming in. Like historically, his wedges haven't been great, but he's fixed that this year. He's had bad years with the putter, but he's been really good this year. His around the green play has been awesome. We know he's probably the best driver of the ball in the world. So I'm on Rory. I like the little discount that you get from Scheffler. That $1,300 can go a long way at the bottom of your lineups. But certainly I'll have some Scheffler. I'm probably not going to have any Ludwig. He's probably my full fade up here. And then Morikawa, I could see him just being a lot lower on than we have him right now because of the bomber angle, and he just kind of seems like he's been forgotten recently because he hasn't been able to win. So I don't know what to do with him yet, but yeah, if I had to rank him, I think I'd go Rory, Rahm, Scheffler, Morikawa, Ludwig.
Agree on Ludwig, but Morikawa, I mean, he's probably my favorite for GPPs. I do agree that I think he'll probably check in a little bit lower than where we have him right now, but he might not be as long off the tee as some of these other guys, but we know the irons are there. I mean, and he's got 4 straight top 20s at this tournament as well. So it's not like he hasn't played well here in the past. 3rd, 10th, 5th, his last 3 trips. So Morikawa, definitely a guy that I like this week. Obviously hard to throw a lot of shade on any of them. But I also find, I mean, a $1,900 discount from Scheffler is pretty significant. So I'm not fading Scheffler or Rory by any means, but I will definitely make sure that I'm overweight on Morikawa at 10.5. So that takes care of that top group. Then we go down into the next range, starting with another guy who's become a bit of a YouTube sensation, or a much more personable guy than he was 5 years ago when he called Augusta a par 68 and when everyone hated him at the time. But Bryson at 9,900 did have his best Masters finish last year, was the first round leader. He ended up finishing T6. We've got Xander, we've got Justin Thomas, Hideki, another couple live guys at the bottom end of the 9K range. Noto, I'll throw this range to you first. Where are you looking at in the 9Ks this week?
Yeah, I came into the week wanting to play some Bryson, but I think I'm going to end up fading him. I don't know. I just think last year's Masters a little bit different. It was a little bit softer than we've seen in past years. And Bryson's biggest issue has been around the green. You know, he's a good bomber. He tends to hit a lot of greens, but when he does miss greens, he just struggles to get up and down. We did see that when he was in contention last year at the Masters. And if it's going to be firm and fast this year, I do think more players are going to be missing greens. And so that worries me with him a little bit. But man, starting with Xander and JT, or Xander and somebody else in this 9K range is certainly interesting. I mean, this guy's won 2 of the last 4 majors. He's nearly won the Masters. I know coming back from injury, he hasn't looked great, but the last time he teed it up, he gained 11.2 strokes on approach, which is his career high. So coming off of his best event ever with the irons, 9,700, doesn't look like a lot of people are going to play him. I think that is certainly interesting. I like JT as well. I know he's missed a cut here each of the last 2 years, but he was on the worst side of the weather draw both of those years, and he helped the made cut parlays by himself both years. I remember it very vividly. So shout out to JT. I think he's going to have a better performance this time around. He's gained speed off the tee over the last couple of years. Great approach player, great around the green. You just kind of take your chances with the putter, which is something I'm willing to do this week. And then I don't really love anyone else in the 9Ks. I'll play some speed because I always do, but I don't have a strong reason why other than he just tends to play well here.
So you're letting bygones be bygones with JT, huh? Not holding the grudge there?
Oh, he's helped me the last couple of years, so I'm going to return the favor. Yeah, I feel like it's a perfect course fit for him if you just look at the stats. And he does have 2 major wins. He's got 3 runner-ups in his last 10 starts. I think there's a lot of positives for JT.
So I thought you said he blew your made cut.
Oh, he single-handedly made it because he missed the cut. He pushed the cut line a couple.
Oh! I got you. All right, so he helped push the cut line to where he needed.
Like he was like inside of it, and then doubled on his last 2 holes. I think
that
both
was
years.
Chaos. Yeah, I remember that now. All right, it's coming back to me. I just misinterpreted your statement the first time. So, all right. Obviously, y'all know my Spieth take, so you don't need that. But Spieth, 3rd miscut, 4th miscut the last 4 years here. So it has been boom or bust for him. Ryan, your take on the 9Ks?
I want to have like a way different view for the viewers, but I can't. I think Derek nailed this section. I'm very interested in Xander. I think you can start your lineups with Xander. 9.7, I think, is a very, very interesting price point. I think a lot of the risk is built into that price point. Same thing, in the betting field and outright space. He was like 24-1. He went off at 15 last year when everyone was concerned that he couldn't close. He goes out and closes 2 majors, and all of a sudden we're getting like 9-10 points. And he was definitely 10K last year as well. So love Xander, love the fit. I love the form that we saw again last time at the Valspar. JT, I also think is interesting. We know we can make birdies in bunches. If you need someone that you don't want your leader being chased by, it's probably Justin Thomas, because he can have what we saw at TPC Sawgrass, where he just kind of blacks out and goes like 63 for, the afternoon and makes a ton of birdies. So absolutely love JT. I want nothing to do with Bryson. I think he's going to be way more owned than you guys have projected right now, just for all the reasons. He's just a popular name. People in casuals just want to have Bryson in the lineup. He's fun to cheer for. He hits the ball a mile. I can't get out of my mind that it's just insane to watch him chip around these greens with what looks like a 5-iron. With these long shaft, it just is, it's bonkers, and it's not working for him. It just isn't. The 65 last year in the opening round is complete noise. He got the early wave, he got no wind, and he got a soft golf course. He went 73, 75, 73 when it mattered from the lead and had a shot to do it. And that's kind of in line with what he's done here every other time outside of basically round one last year. So fairly easy fade. Can he go out and win this golf tournament? 1,000%, right? He's a fantastic golfer. But again, let's, find ways to go after Bryson at the PGA or at the US Open. I just think the Masters is going to continue to be a problem for him. So Hovland's a tricky one for me. I absolutely love Victor Hovland. Obviously, last time we saw him, he played fantastic golf. A guy who does not typically handle himself well when the around the green demand is what it's going to be this week, though he has been pretty good here historically around the green, pretty small sample. But it feels like a guy that the confidence matters quite a bit. It sounds like he's talked himself back into being that guy again. And I think that matters quite a bit if he believes that he can tee it up and has a shot to compete. Feels like he's made the most of his time off since the Valspar win. So down there in the bottom of the 9Ks, Hovland would be my preferred play.
Y'all are scared of Bryson chipping, but you're going to play Hovland?
Yeah.
All right. I'll eat the crow with Team Bryson this week. Like Ryan said, you just want to root for him, and he can hit it 400 yards. So maybe he'll make a hole in one on the, drivable par 4 or something and get lucky. But agree on the sentiment of him likely being somewhat popular. I will be interested to see where he comes in, but I've got to play some Bryson. I think the wild card in this range, which seems like people have had differing takes on from what I've read so far, is Niemann. Another guy that we don't see a whole lot of because he's playing on Live, right? Brooks is another one that used to be, every major championship you play Brooks. Niemann has been playing really consistent golf on Live, but again, weight that how much you want. But his major championship track record isn't necessarily that strong in general. Ryan, anything else on this range or any takes on Brooks, Niemann, or before we move on?
Niemann's played 22 major championships in his career. He's 0 finishes inside the top 15. He's still just 26 years old. I think there's a ton of talent in there, but I want to see it first. And, in the 9K range, we're paying for it a little bit as if it's implied to happen. So, yeah, I'm going to wait and set out for Niemann, let him continue to, beat up on, a bunch of 50-year-olds and some has-beens on Live.
That's what he's got here. He's got 50-year-olds and has-beens.
He doesn't actually. It's fair. It's fair. Yeah, he'll feel good. He'll maybe crack the top 15 for the first time in his career in a major. But yeah, like I said, I'm not paying for it at all.
Man, when Phil called him the best golfer in the world, I was like, okay, he must be on fire on Live. And then he's got like 1 win and some mediocre T33s. Like,
just a little hyperbole in that statement from Phil. Noto, you got any hot takes on those two? I really don't.
No, I think
it's a fair point on the price tag, though.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm playing somebody in the 9Ks, I want to think that they can win, and I just don't think anyone else. I mean, Brooks obviously could, but he's been pretty bad this year. I don't think Tommy can win. I think he could top 5 for sure. So, but yeah, give me Xander, give me JT.
All right, so let's go ahead and move down into the mid-tier, the 8K range here on DraftKings. We've got Shane Lowry, Patrick Cantlay, Terrell Hatton, Minwoo Lee, winner a few weeks back, Russell Henley, Will Zalatoris, Cam Smith, Akshay, and Bob McIntyre at the bottom of the 8K range. Obviously, we know that Ryan likes Cam Smith from his comments at the top of the show. Zalatoris, I think, makes for an interesting discussion. He's got 3 top 10s in 4 previous trips to the Masters. One guy I really think is intriguing this week is Lowry. Lowry doesn't get a whole lot of credit for being a top-tier golfer on the PGA Tour, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, people just kind of seem to have that sense that, yeah, he can play on links. Maybe he'll contend at the Open. But I mean, he's got 5 top 20s in his last 6 starts. His last 5 starts at the Masters, he's made the cut every time. 4 of them have been top 25s. Had a T3 a few years ago. So, we've got Lowry at around 10%. Nobody ever seems to love playing him in any event that takes place in the States, unless it's a mega weak field. So I like Lowry at 8,800. Don't have a ton of strong takes on the rest of the 8K range, but Ryan, I'll throw this range back to you first. What are you looking at in here?
It's a loaded range. I really like the bottom of it in particular. I would, echo the sentiments of Lowry. I think he's very much in play. Is he going to win the golf tournament? No. Always plays well in Florida. Occasionally threaded towards the top of the leaderboard, the early rounds, but seems to falter at times when the weekend gets there. But again, nice history, just no real holes in his game. Again, not a guy that I want to play into ownership, so I'd want to see how that kind of plays itself out. Min-Woo Lee, obviously last time we saw Min-Woo was playing really good golf in the field with Rory and Scotty. Took him down. Min-Woo makes birdies in bunches. It's a little bit of a wild ride, but DraftKings, we want birdies, and Min-Woo can do that in spades. So I like him quite a bit, especially if he's going to be right around 10% where you guys have him as well. I am a sucker for anything and all things Russell Henley. I think he has been massively underrated for the last 2 years. I feel like finally the world is catching up. So Russell Henley at 15, 20% is a little less appealing than where he's been in the past. But again, another guy that just plays along golf course as well. Not necessarily someone you would think that would do that, but T4 here 2 years ago, played well at Troon last year. Obviously just won Bay Hill, the spot that you wouldn't think a guy like Russell Henley would fit. So like him quite a bit. You mentioned Zalatoris. History here is great. I always like Zalatoris when the demand is like maybe 10, 11 under par, right? We're not having to chase to the high teens or 20s from a scoring standpoint. Zalatoris just going to keep the ball in play, get himself in position in pars and take some positions on those par 5s. Like him quite a bit. And obviously I already played my Cam Smith hand here as well. Another guy that's going to make a ton of birdies. He's got a little bit of those strokes gained magic beans like Spieth has on and around the greens here. Second to Scheffler in strokes gained total over the last 5 years at Augusta National. Second in birdie rate on par 5s as well, which matters a ton. So again, doesn't matter what form he comes in on. He just knows his way around this place. He's played really well here, and love him again this week.
Was that strokes gained magic beans? Was that the term?
Strokes gained, it's just, strokes gained pine straw here at Augusta, magic beans for Cam Smith. You don't know how it happens. He's going to tee you off, throw the ball into the woods off the tee, hit a kind of a crazy second shot, and then all of a sudden he's, chipping in. Like it happens all the time.
All right. Before we move further, want to remind everybody that the battle for the jacket is heating up in Augusta, and there is no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. And for the year's first major, DraftKings is giving all customers a shot to play free for a $1 million top prize. With your next $10 deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app, RG is also giving you a chance to use our Lineup HQ product for PGA free this entire week. All you need to do is sign up and create a free RotoGrinders account. Check us out at rotogrinders.com. I know we also got a few questions coming into the YouTube, so I'll go grab those in a little bit. Hopefully my microphone doesn't go haywire when I do that, but we'll get to those in just a second. Noto, your thoughts on the 8K range here?
Yeah, I can grab the questions too if you need to. 8Ks, I'm in agreement with Brian. I think cash games, you look at Henley, you look at Shane Lowry, just two guys that are very consistent, very high floors. They get it done a little bit differently than the bomber like Min-Woo Lee. They're accurate off the tee and great with long irons. And then Min-Woo is a bomber who's got an elite short game. Min-Woo's my favorite tournament play of the bunch. I wrote a trends article. Everybody loves a good trends article for the Masters. And him and Rory were the only two that fit all of the 8 trends that I looked at. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I'm going to play some Patrick Cantlay, 8,700 for a guy that doesn't have a weakness in his game. I know he doesn't have the best track record in majors, but he did contend at the U.S. Open last year, and he's like one of 5 guys that's in the top 30 of every strokes gained metric in this field. So I don't know. I'll play some Cantlay, even though he's not a guy that I typically play. I like the Zalatoris call and large field stuff. Then at the very bottom, Robert McIntyre, a couple top 25s here in 2 starts. He's been awesome, especially in strong field events. He was 6th at Waste Management, 11th at the Arnold Palmer, and then 9th at the Players. And his ball striking numbers have gotten so much better on this side of the pond over the last 18 months, especially this year. So a guy that can play well on difficult courses. I think he's really interesting at 8K.
Yeah, I just went ahead and pulled up the questions on my phone so that I didn't risk screwing up my mic. Garth says Rahm has enough money not to care. That's a fair point. I still think he cares about these majors, but Alexander playing in his office pool with a bunch of golf heads, he says, and throughout his roster, which looks pretty solid at first glance there. So thanks, as always, for checking out our show. Hit that thumbs up button on the YouTube as well. We appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and move down into the 7K range where we talked about it for a month. Death, taxes, and Corey Connors under 8,000 at the Masters, where he checks in at 7,900. T10, T8, T6, and then a miscut here in 2023, which was a year where he was massive chalk. Did make the cut last year, but didn't necessarily have a great finish. But he's been playing solid golf this year, so Connors will probably be your chalk again at 7,900. Tony Finau in here as well. A lot of people are going to perceive as pretty cheap. But you've got other guys like Sepp Straka that have been playing solid golf this year. Veterans like Jason Day, Adam Scott, Justin Rose, Sung J M, Patrick Reed in the 7K range as well. So again, the pricing a little bit softer for these majors. You get some of these 7K guys that are perfectly capable of finishing inside the top 10, top 15. Noto, I'll throw this tier to you first. And what are you looking at here in the 7s?
Yeah, we've talked about Corey Connors in the last 4 events, and he's finished T3, T6, T8, T18. This is just the time of year where you play Corey Connors, even if he's going to be popular. I know it didn't work a couple years ago, but it did work the previous 3. So I'm back on Corey Connors. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but his short game's actually been pretty good this year. So you could say, maybe the ball striking gets even better at the Masters where he typically crushes, or maybe the short game finally shows its true form and he struggles with the short game, and then, he plays bad. But it is worth noting that his around the green and putting have been much better this year. I don't mind looking to Finau just because he does everything well except putting. Another guy that just strong tee to green that I don't mind taking anytime we get a really difficult golf course. And then I continue to just miss the boat on Sepp Straka. I don't know what I'm going to do with them again this week. Projects pretty well for me. 3 for 3 here. Not a long guy, but kind of fits the same mold as Henley and Lowry, and that hits a lot of fairways, elite iron player. So I'm still struggling with that one. Play a little bit of Jason Day, but overall not my favorite range. We did get a question about the winning score. Do you guys have a prediction for that?
We're probably in the same range as last year. So last year at Scotty at 11. It's typically where we've been the last 3 or 4 years that we pretty much outside of the DJ 2020, fall event where, you get to 20 under. We've pretty much been right around there, 10, 12 under. So I think we're probably right around there again. I don't think it's going to be more firm and fast this year than years past because the weather is going to be nicer.
Yeah, so probably play a little bit tougher on the weekend. I think that's a pretty good range as well. All right, Ryan, your thoughts on the 7Ks?
Yeah, Connors and Straka, I think, are probably good chalk in this range. With the pricing coming out a little earlier. Sepp's just been playing really good golf. Good course history. Doesn't really have any holes in his game. Wyndham Clark's interesting to me too. I mean, can be so hot and cold, but he really has everything that you would want here, right? Plus distance off the tee, really good. Around the green game, the putter can get real hot. We saw that at LACC. Really saved himself with his short game. Second year, right? First time last year. At least has a little bit of reps under his belt coming here last year a little bit. Patrick Reed, another guy that just continues to play well and show up. Nice little spot last week at Doral. Faded a little bit, but obviously just has the course history here and knows how to navigate this course quite a bit. Sergio's another one. Sergio at 7,100. His course history is worse than people think, but he did win, obviously, so that bodes well. There's a lot of missed cuts in there, too. So it's not like Sergio just comes here every year and is kind of in contention. But right now, ball striking, really like elite Sergio. So getting him right now at 7,100, I think he's probably my favorite of the bottom tier. Keegan is in that mix too. Keegan with his high ball flight that plays well here with these greens, especially if they're going to get baked out. You want to have a little bit more of a high trajectory to hold these firm and fast greens. Again, another guy that kind of has everything. Looked a little lost at the Valero. I wanted him to have maybe a little bit better form, but $7K for Keegan, I think is just a little too cheap. So that's kind of my favorite guys down at the bottom here at $7K.
Yeah, Keegan at 7,000, pretty difficult to ignore with the way he's been playing at that salary. I would have predicted him to be a little bit higher than that. Don't mind going with some of those veterans in the lower part of the range as well. As far as wild cards that I don't mind taking a shot at in GPPs, Sung J M has been so bad with the irons. Everything else has been pretty good though. So, and he has some decent results here. I think he's okay for tournaments. And if you want to go with the, not much course history angle, but some talent, guys like Berger, McNeely, I think wouldn't be surprised if they played well, but probably wouldn't get to those guys on like a single roster. Would have to be more of a 10 plus GPP entry type of build to where I'm getting there. And I did catch, so I happened to be filling out our RotoGrinders expert survey last night at the same time that Noto was, and I happened to catch that he for a brief moment had Cameron Young as his favorite value, but he then changed that. He got scared, didn't want to get called out for it, but I noticed it. Before he changed it. So are we on or off the Cam Young train, Noto?
Very large field. I'm on Cam Young. Back-to-back top 10s here. I know it hasn't been great this year, but finally showed a little bit of life last week with the T18. I don't know. I just want to get him right once. So maybe I'll.
Well, we're about 0 for 6 combined on him, and he's about missed the cut by a combined 50 or 60 strokes. So one of these times it has to work. So I chuckled because I saw that, and then I saw you changed it. So
yeah, the last time I played him, he started +2 before he teed off because he had a penalty for keeping his earbuds in or whatever on the first tee. So yeah, I love Keegan in this range, like you guys mentioned. He's just too cheap. Love the Sergio call. He's been awesome, and you get him in a Ryder Cup year too. He's got a lot to play for right now. You mentioned the history. I mean, I remember the year after he won when he came here, he was pretty chalky, and I think he dumped 5 straight wedge shots on 15 into the water.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's some screenshots of that shot tracker out there on Twitter somewhere. But I do like Sergio. Adam Scott's made 15 straight cuts here. So if you're doing made cut parlays like myself, just throw him on some of those. I don't know how much upside he has for DFS, but I think he's a pretty good made cut option. And then, yeah, Patrick Reed. I think I'll probably play some of him. Not a guy that I love, but you always play him at the Masters.
It was a record-setting 13 on the 15th hole with 5 straight balls in the water. There's plenty of video out there on YouTube where he was hitting the wedge into the water, rolling it back into the water every time. It was pretty brutal.
He was like under par too.
He was one over. He was one over, and like had to get to. It was seeming like he had to get to even.
Okay.
To make the cut, and obviously that ended at that point when he shot +8 on the single hole, but. Yeah, so he was 1 over and then 9 over after that and didn't really sniff the cut line. But oh yeah, I remember that. That must mean I played him that week. All right, let's go down to the value range here under 7,000. 6,000 is the pricing floor. Again, we've got a lot of veterans in the field this week. Vijay Singh is not playing, but Angel Cabrera, Fred Couples, Mike Weir. There's a whole lot of guys that are past champions and are playing, basically for kicks and giggles at this point, that you're probably not going to want to play those guys. But there are some playable guys in the, say, 6,300 to 6,900 range. Ryan, you got any values that you're going to throw some darts at?
Yeah, there's a few in here. I think they're going to be important this week because, right, you were spending a lot at the top. We need some of these guys to land the plane a little bit. Going down to 6,600, 6,500, a couple of my favorites here. Lucas Glover, if you're running some strokes gained, recent form stuff without any type of filtering, just looking at how guys have played of late, Lucas Glover has been fantastic. The players last time out as well. It just continues to play really good golf and played pretty good golf here historically as well, even though you think his distance or lack of distance would be a problem for him. So he's a really nice little spot here, I think, for cash game builds at 66. And then a couple guys at 6,500 that I think are really cheap. Harris English, just routinely in the mix, right around like 25 finishing position here for the last like 4 years. Very, very consistent. Does a lot of that work with this short game, but that's okay. Very familiar here. Comes here often. Has already won on a long golf course with difficult scoring conditions this year at Torrey Pines. So, again, when we don't have to push into like the high teens scoring wise, that fits out pretty well for Harris English. And then Denny McCarthy. Denny came here last year for the first time and made the cut, T45. Now has a little bit more experience, has added distance to the game this year. Club head speed is up significantly. Strokes gained approach, gaining at least 0.7 strokes on average per round in all of his events this year. It's been really consistent. So it kind of went from a one-trick pony to a guy that's really improved some really important parts of his game. So love Denny, love Harris English, and also Lucas Glover down here. Kind of my favorite three. But there's a bunch. There's some other guys that are pretty. I mean, Phil is very much a play at 6,700. Again, I'm sure Noto's seen him too if he's watching some YouTube golf these days. Phil's dialed in on lots of people's feeds, including his own. And another guy that I think is pretty motivated to show that he's not necessarily maybe past his prime, but not past being able to show up here and compete, especially all the things that have happened here in the last few years. So Phil's kind of another one in 67 that I like.
All right, I'll get to Noto with the value range here in just a second. But before we do that, probably a good time to join up our snake draft for tonight. Again, if you're not familiar, we always do a snake draft on DraftKings to close out the show. If you don't want to stick around and watch us banter about the snake draft for a little bit, you can certainly exit at any time. But again, thanks for watching and hit that thumbs up button. We do probably have more people with eyes on it live compared to usual. So we can try to fill a 12-man snake draft. Yes. I mean, that would be 84 out of the 95 golfers getting picked. We probably don't have to stay on the air for all the rounds if we do 12, but let's see if we can fill it just for curiosity's sake more than anything. So there's a $5 snake draft on DraftKings that right now is 2 out of 12. So if we all get in there, that'd make it 5 out of 12. And we'll just see if we can get that up to 12 and, stay on the air maybe for the first couple rounds. And then we can do the rest of it offline and recap the results next week. But would be fun to fill a 12-man. Been a while since we've been able to do that, probably since the last major last year. And did somebody throw that link in the chat?
I did. Did you blur your face by chance?
What's that?
Did you blur your face by chance?
No. See, I don't know why. It does look very blurry. I can even see it blurry. I don't know why it does funny, that. It's like the background's out of focus. See?
Oh, there you go.
I don't just put my hand. I've scared my camera. I've really lost my looks here. All right. That's better than could be worse, I guess. We're up to 9 of 12 while we wait for this to fill. Noto, your thoughts on the 6Ks?
Yeah, you mentioned Phil Mickelson. Been watching him on YouTube for sure. I thought Wesley Bryan was a good trash talker, but man, Phil just ran circles around him when they played each other. So that was pretty entertaining. I don't know if I can play Phil, but man, a couple top sixes in a row. Obviously, he's got the good track record here. I love the Denny McCarthy call. He rates out the best for me, even though I have driving distance weighted pretty heavily. And I like that he's picked up some speed. So that's a good call there. Benny On's probably my favorite because of the distance. I think Michael Kim's interesting. He hits that draw, and, we like the right to left ball movement at Augusta. I like the Glover call too. He's been pretty solid this year. And then looks like we're filled. So anyone else that you like, cards?
I don't know. I got to pick last. I don't like picking 12th. That's no fun. The guy that's probably going to get the most buzz for first timers that's fit for the course is Pendrith with the bomber angle, which is fine. I don't mind him. In agreement with McCarthy. I'll probably keep somebody like Jaeger in my player pool. Like Jaeger missed the cut here last year, but at least, got a couple rounds of experience. Won't go super crazy with this range, but I could see like, somebody like Aaron Rye or Pendrith surprising a little bit. In addition to some of the guys that have already been mentioned. So I think that's pretty good. I'll attempt to share my screen here. Again, we'll go through the first couple of rounds. Noto got the 4th pick. Looks like Ryan and I are both picking at the back. Producer Steve got in, and he's picking 10th. So we will be dominating the back end of the draft. All right. I will...
We also had a random Charles Schwartzel white hot finish on Sunday at Doral, which is really weird to see. Not what I was expecting on the bingo card for lead into the Masters was Schwartzel making an appearance. Had a random like top 12 here a couple years ago too. So, and I looked at the rest of the live card and he's been playing pretty well. 6,200 for Schwartzel. Probably not a guy that you like want to be heavy on, but like you're just mixing in and maybe you can't get to that 6,500 range, 66 for some of the guys we mentioned. Need a couple of those, $100 to get down there. Schwartzel's probably the, previous winner that is at least competitive. Like, I don't know what Bubba's doing these days.
I was a big Schwartzel guy back in the day when he was on the PGA Tour. I played him a lot.
Yeah. So I don't know, a little bit of form.
No cheating. Noto.
Yeah.
How old is he?
47.
All right, Ryan, you got higher or lower than 47?
I think he's younger than that. I think he's maybe 42.
He is 40.
Okay.
Exactly 40. He's younger than me by a couple of months, which I would not have guessed. I don't think I would have gone up to 47, but I would have probably said mid 40s. So yeah, he's only 40. He must have started playing on tour pretty young. I don't know. Years mesh together so much these days. It's hard to say. All right, look at that big old board. Probably doesn't even fit on my screen here.
Let's see. He won 2011.
2011? It's been 14 years?
Uh-huh.
That was probably one of the first years of DFS golf when he won.
Birdied the last 4 holes.
That'll play. There was a couple of sitters in here before we joined, so they'll probably be on autopilot that doesn't kick in until the final round. But like I say, we'll go through a few rounds here live on air, and then we can cut out and share the results next week. But it'll be interesting to see what the final rounds look like. So, and having the last pick in the first round and the very last pick of the entire draft isn't very cool, because I don't know who I'm going to get with the very last pick of the draft. But
you we'll get the guy on the turn, though.
There we go. Lowry Fleetwood at the turn there.
It's funny. I was excited to see I was cashing in the snake last week, and then it was the one that filled. I joined it so it could fill.
It was
so
the fake one.
And I just auto drafted in that one.
I don't do these enough. They're fun.
Yeah, and they help like get a gauge on ownership too, because random guys will go way higher than their, price point.
My most active day of snake drafts ever was one day where like there was a giant storm that was going to be taking up the whole East Coast, and there was like 5 baseball games that were almost guaranteed to get postponed the next day, and I started joining snake drafts like the night before, knowing that those games weren't going to play. And hoping that, it was interesting because a few people were doing the same thing, but others just got littered with postpones. But yeah, I don't do them enough.
Did it work?
It did work. Yeah. That's been a few years, but it's probably grinding like $5 and $10 snake drafts to end up making like $24 or something, but it was an edge.
Hey, yeah. An edge is an edge.
It was an edge.
It's just not going to scratch itself. You got to get in there and
that's right.
Figure it out.
So as we get to the bottom of this, so like 12 times 7, I think is 84. That means we're going to take 84 golfers.
Oof.
Look at these guys.
I wrote up every single one in the field over the last week or so. So I can tell you all about these these AMs. I can tell you about the long history of Angel Cabrera's time in Argentine prison and Brazilian prisons, and didn't think we'd have to draft these guys today, but here we are.
You should be sitting in 12 mans all day then. You got an edge.
That's probably true.
I'm gonna end up missing. Oh, I got plenty of time. That's right. I'm 1,000 picks away. I was gonna sitting there staring at the bottom of the board and end up stuck with Spieth or so. Spieth's already gone, so I don't have to worry about that. All right, we'll run the stream through the end of the third round, and then we'll call it a day in case anybody's trying to plan the riveting action here. If you're not in, we can share these results next week with 12 people in here. So thanks to all the new folks that joined in, and hope you check us out even when it's not Masters Week. Bring you this show every Tuesday night. So.
All right, who are you guys' first two picks?
Oops, I went off the board there. Lowry and Fleetwood for me at the turn. Ryan got Cam Smith and Zalatoris. Pretty hard to go wrong in these first few rounds, at least on paper.
Yeah, I like Derek's start, for being honest. He's definitely he's got us so far. Justin, he's got us on the start.
He's picking 7 picks ahead, so he's got the built-in edge.
This is where it's tough already. Patrick Reed's gonna be popular. He's way up here in the ADP. You didn't mention Berger. Do you like Berger, Justin? I
just briefly kind of mentioned him in passing. Like, hasn't had a lot of success here, but the way he's been playing, the way he's been hitting it off the tee, if you're looking for a dart throw in that low 7K range, I think he's a really strong tournament play. I would certainly take him here on this board out of the guys that are still there. Yeah, I'm sure he's not going to make it back to 6-7 picks away to me, but we had dreams. Three different milli makers on DraftKings this week, so pick your price point if you want to play for $1 million.
Speaking of YouTube golf, Dustin Johnson and his brother took on Phil and Grant Horvat, and
embarrassing.
Just even DJ was just terrible. Dude can't golf anymore, so I wouldn't play DJ this week.
He was okay for a little bit there in Doral, but then he just kind of faded. I don't know what's going on there. That's a guy that feels like we had the guy in the chat mentioned that that Rahm doesn't need any money. He's fine. I think Rahm still he still gives it. Yeah. He's still younger than DJ too. So DJ's fine, hanging out with Paulina, doing whatever they need to do.
Yeah. In theory, Doral would be a good course for DJ.
Yeah, but I definitely wanted to win them there. I thought there was a drop. Gonna have to go off the board.
Kind of like producer Steve's squad so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, JT, Cantlay, and Clark.
Ooh, boy. This is only my fourth pick.
You're building the cash game lineup if I've ever seen one.
Fine, I'll take McNeely then. I was going to take Adam Scott, but then that would have cemented that.
Perfect cash game lineup.
That would have cemented that. Since we're a 12-man, better take a few more risks. All right.
We'll go Adam Scott too, but Phil.
There you go. Go with Phil. All right. On that note, we'll end it with Phil. There's the squad so far on your screen, and we'll finish this off and share the results next week. Don't need to keep everybody waiting for another 15, 20 minutes while we finish out the last few rounds. But as always, thanks for joining us. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes. Thanks, as always, to Noto for joining me. And thanks to Ryan for joining us as well. It was a ton of fun. Enjoy the Masters, everybody. Again, hit that thumbs up button on the YouTube. Check out all the offerings that we have at RotoGrinders.com. Sign up for that free account. Get access to our lineup HQ tools for DraftKings this week. Get that $10 free ticket over on DK. Lots of great stuff going on. So for Steve, for Ryan, for Noto, I'm Justin. Have a great week, everybody, and we will catch you all later.